Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, as fertiliser prices have skyrocketed, I'm joined by Teagasc Specialist Mark Plunkett to get an update on what's the outlook for the coming months and what you can do to maintain margins in light of possible increases. Mark, you're very welcome to the show. The current fertiliser price increases we're hearing of are unprecedented.
Absolutely, fertilizer prices have gone to highs never seen before in my lifetime anyway. And I suppose, look, there's a number of factors driving the price increases, and it very much revolves around natural gas, both the supply and the price of it. And I suppose in the last 6 months, Catherine, natural gas has become very, very expensive in Europe and worldwide. And as natural gas is a key ingredient in the production of all nitrogen sources, there's also other factors out there that are driving the price of fertilizers at present. We've a world economy recovering from COVID, such things as there's also a drive to, I suppose, clean up especially the production of fertilizer, and there's a switch to natural gas, a cleaner fuel. There's also things like the wind hasn't blown as much in Europe, and there's less energy coming from, say, wind power. So there's a number of factors, and there's also other things like, a number of countries have introduced export bans on fertilizer, such as China and Russia, and they would be big suppliers into the Irish market. But most definitely, prices have increased dramatically, and there may be issues around supply come the new year.
And as you say, like, nitrogen has really spiraled out of control and really nearly doubled in price since this time last year. But phosphorus and potassium have also increased in price.
Yes, that's a good observation, Catherine. Nitrogen has taken the biggest increase. It's you could say nitrogen has nearly gone threefold. This time last year, nitrogen was about 85 cents a kilo. Today, it's anywhere between 2 to 2.50 a kilo, depending on whether you go for urea or a can base type nitrogen. P and K have increased in price. Again, they have increased, but they haven't increased to the same extent as nitrogen, and that's what's driving the big increase in fertilizer prices is high end, either straight nitrogen or high ends, the likes of your 27s, 24s, or your 18612. They are going to be more expensive in 2022.
I suppose the question on everyone's mind really is, from your experience, what way do you think the market will go in the new year?
Well, current indications from the marketplace is that prices are going to remain strong. They're like, they're going to remain at quoted prices as we have today. You would be hoping that there would be some fallback, but it could be mid 2022 from what I'm hearing from the trade. And again, it very much revolves around natural gas, in terms of the supply and the price, as we have discussed already.
I know, and speaking with Teagasc advisor John Kelly recently on a podcast, he spoke of the rise in concentrate prices. But now for farmers listening in, there's huge concern in light of these fertiliser price increase. What advice have you for farmers?
Well, I suppose, what can we do? And like, I suppose the first thing, I suppose, is to see, what are your requirements going to be for 2022 and try to plan around that. And I think, Catherine, it's very much back to the basics. It very much starts with soil analysis, soil test results. If you haven't taken samples, say, in the last 4 or 5 years, now is a great time to contact your local advisor and get fresh soil samples taken. I suppose, it will give us a basis to, in terms of applying P's and K's. From the Teagasc soil database, we will see that approximately 25% of soils are index 4 for P and K, and that offers a great opportunity to save on P's and K's in 2022. Other things like, getting the pH right, very, very important. Where fields are acidic and have a lime requirement, by improving the pH, we can release up to 70 kilograms of N per hectare per year. And on a dry stock farm, that would meet, a lot of the nitrogen requirement during the growing season. Also on the phosphorus front, by getting the pH right, it will increase the availability. So there's big savings there from, just getting the basics right in terms of lime, and then priming the soils to release more nitrogen and release more phosphorus during the growing season.
I know when farmers are used to hearing about the importance of applying lime, and just under 50% of the soils on beef farms are deficient in lime. So if farmers are just to maintain a margin in 2022 and even just corrected the lime on the grazing ground, what's the potential saving that they could make on chemical fertiliser?
Yeah, look, lime is lime is a low cost input. It's very, very important in terms of regulating pH. And as I was saying to you there, like, we can release up to 70 kilograms of N per hectare, and that's worth in the region of 150 euros per hectare, at current fertilizer prices. Also, by getting the lime right, you will increase the availability of soil phosphorus, so it could move you an index. So again, you could reduce your P requirement by up to 50%. On a dry stock farm.
And Mark, if the pH, the P's and K's are correct, how much grass could be grown on a farm with no chemical nitrogen?
Again, it depends on the soil type, but you can grow anywhere, say on anywhere from say 2.5 to 3 ton up to 6-7 tons. You know what I mean? If you like, there's work there on the release of soil nitrogen, like say a soil in Kilmaley, for example, will release 70 kilograms of N per hectare per year, where if you have a soil, say something like a Moore Park soil, it'll release about 130 kilograms of N per hectare per year. And if you have a soil like a Grange soil or a Johnstown Castle soil, it can release up to 200 kilograms per hectare per year.
So really, Mark, for farmers that might be lowly stocked, even targeting correcting pH, P and K for 2022 might suffice.
Well, I think that is the first place to start, Catherine, with fertilizer so expensive, is to get the farm soil sampled, if it hasn't been done in the last 4 or 5 years, and see where lime is requirement. That is the first, like, you know what I mean, in terms of releasing more nutrients from the soil and also increasing the efficiency of the nitrogen and the P and K applied. And I suppose the one good thing on the dry stock side of the house is that, there's a low demand for nitrogen and also a low demand for P and K. Like if you take a farm, say a farm at 130 kilograms of organic N per hectare, like something like a bag of 18612 will maintain P and K levels in that system on the grazing side of the house.
I suppose really looking forward, Mark, and speak with farmers, the question is arising, what did we apply next year when it comes to silage ground?
Well, I was just going to bring that up, Catherine. I suppose the silage ground is one area that we shouldn't cut back on in 2022. Where possible. I suppose the first port of call would be cattle slurry, and again, ideally, it should go back to the silage ground because it has the right balance of P's and K's, and it would have came from that part of the farm. So make sure that the cattle slurry goes back. Also, apply the cattle slurry when conditions are right in terms of grass growth, good soil temperatures, good trafficability. And also, apply with low emission slurry spreading with likes of a band spreader or a trail and shoot to recover the nitrogen from that slurry.
And you mentioned using the low emissions slurry spreading techniques, and they have grown in popularity in the last few years. What can farmers do to maximize the nitrogen value in this slurry from using these techniques?
Well, again, as I was saying, it's back to timing. So again, we apply it in the springtime when soil conditions are good. When soil temperatures are above 5-6 degrees. There's good trafficability. There's a good forecast in terms of the week ahead. And again, the low emission, the band spreader, the trailing shoe will, reduce nitrogen losses and make more nitrogen available to grow that grass. Like if you take a first cut of silage, like we could supply approximately 30% of the crop's nitrogen requirement with say 3,000 gallons of cattle slurry per acre and supply the majority of the P and Ks depending on the soil P and K index.
So there's potential savings to be made there again.
Well, I think in 2022, like as I say, if we're to use the slurry as efficiently as possible, we put it back on the silage ground where the big demand is for P and K, and to ensure that we grow, sufficient winter fodder. Like the grazing ground is different. Like, you know what I mean? Like the grazing ground where P and K is required, we're probably best targeting something like maybe an 18612 or maybe, something along those lines, or maybe straight nitrogen. But most definitely, Catherine, I would be targeting my slurry back onto the silage ground.
Mark, you had some great, interesting tips and advice. And to conclude, what 3 actions should farmers take now in advance of 2022?
Well, I think maybe see where you are in terms of get fresh soil samples taken. That's number one. Number two, where pHs are low, order lime or plan lime applications between now and springtime. And number three is use slurry as efficiently as possible, especially where there's a big nutrient demand, such as on the silage ground on the farm.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Okay, Catherine, thank you.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Mark for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.